How's it going, everybody? With the Old Man Logan event fastly approaching, I'm getting lots of questions about T4s and teams to use during this event, given the tags. We're going to talk about all that and more, and I'm going to theory craft some potential nightmare situations that maybe we'll find ourselves in, or maybe because they're stargating it, these nodes are going to be so easy and nothing is going to matter here. If you like this video, please make sure you leave a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Start talking about the Out of Time team. Alright, so the first tag team that was announced as a restricted section in the Old Man Logan event was the Out of Time team. Now, I just finished this infographic, got it up on the Patreon. If you want to join the Patreon, it's $1 a month to help support the stream of what we do here, and we get all these infographics up there, and then once they are, not old news, but once they are one patch old, they make their way to the Discord, free to play, free to see, free to consume. So make sure you join the Discord as well and check out the infographics channel. But this is what I think are the bare minimum T4s for the Out of Time team. We'll talk about some of the counters and how to build some of these characters if you want to really maximize your potential here. So for Black Knight, I think his passive and his special, 100% necessary. His ultimate is going to add a tremendous amount of damage. That's why it's in red there, because it is sort of a luxury T4, but it's so impactful you should really take a good look at it. I love Black Knight as a fortifier, though I do think there's an argument to be made as a striker if you are cheaping out on every other character and you need his bleeds to do a lot of work. Moving on over to Captain America, I do think only his special is mandatory because that is going to fully cleanse him before he taunts, and it's also going to cleanse 5 debuffs off the rest of his members. It doesn't show that in the MSF website for some reason, but it does. That is the case. His ultimate will give him additional 30% speed bar when he does it, and then his passive is going to give him additional block chance. So if we're pushing hard here, you're going to want him as tanky as possible, and that's going to make a lot of sense. And then I also like to add Fortifier to him for that reason. Peggy Carter, we don't really need anything for her. It's not mandatory, but her special will make their enemies, or your characters rather, revive with an additional 30% should one of them, kick the bucket. And then her passive is going to give them sort of a health trigger when they drop below a certain amount. She's going to heal them for 30%. This is going to be a Scourge style event, so it's going to be long drawn out fights. So I do suggest you put her as a healer, as she will be the reason why you're able to stay alive. Then we got Cosmic Ghost Rider. His ultimate is definitely mandatory with that stun addition there. His passive is going to increase the amount of barrier he gives when the enemies do an ultimate. This is, again, because it's a Scourge event, this is going to be very impactful because there's going to be more than 5 enemies that you're facing. So Peggy's healing you, but Cosmic Ghost Rider is going to be giving you a much needed barrier. I also think that special is something you should look at. It's very, very powerful, and it's going to have an additional effect if there are enemy protectors and they have defense down, get a trauma out there. You never know what the developer's going to throw at us. This is going to be sort of a theme when it comes to imagining the worst case scenario of these nodes, because there are some T4s that are so specific, like this one, and like Void Knight stealing 1 energy outside of raids with that T4. The developers could put these very specific problems up that drop in at a very specific time that you need these T4s for. So it's good to know where those are. For Starbrand, I think the same thing as Cosmic Ghost Rider. His ultimate is adding that stun. His passive is going to be adding immunity, and his special, I forget what his special does, but I believe it's additional turn meter rewind. This, like Cosmic Ghost Rider special, could be mandatory. We might absolutely need to the very digit of a rewind that it does to be able to beat certain nodes in a certain efficiency way to compete as much as we want to compete. So that might be mandatory, but for now, I'm gonna pass on that. As far as our ISO goes, I didn't bring up Cosmic Ghost Rider's ISO yet because I think whatever you do on one, you do the opposite on the other. So if you have Cosmic Ghost Rider as a striker, you want your Starbrand as a raider, and vice versa. If Cosmic Ghost Rider is a raider, you want your Starbrand as a striker. Both have very interesting ISO attacks, whether it be more damage or whether it be, I believe it's offense down. So make sure we are, again, rising to whatever the challenge provided to us is. Investment priority, I don't think this is going to surprise anybody. Black Knight is your number 1, Captain America number 2. I like Cosmic Ghost Rider as your number 3. The damage he brings is going to be very impactful. Peggy Carter at 4 and Starbrand at 5. Starbrand might be the MVP of this Scourge trial, though. He really might, because we haven't really seen him be able to do abilities. I'll tell you that in Crucible, when I've actually seen him get to do an attack, he crushes. Huge damage. But there is concern with his survivability. He might just be getting spam revived by Peggy. We'll have to wait and see. As far as direct promotions go, obviously Black Knight, we don't have his diamonds available yet. This is mostly for the long-term longevity of this infographic. But you want to promote your Black Knight to as many red stars as you have yellow stars. Captain America and Cosmic Ghost Rider, I think they both are warranting of a 1 diamond upgrade as well. And then we got the positioning of this team. I like having the 2 tanks away from the Peggy Carter, especially in a long drawn-out fight like we have here, so that she can keep healing people, reviving people, giving buffs out as it goes, and their reflexive taunts are protecting her way over there on her island. Things that we're going to need to look out for on these Cabal nodes, we want to make sure we're protecting ourselves if we see like superior 6 characters. If there's a Sinister, maybe he's not going to be on spawn. Maybe he's going to come later on. We're going to want to make sure we have a taunt up on Captain America and not Black Knight, so that he is, you know, controlling the right character. But when we have this War Pact on, Sinister, I believe, just picks the opponent with the highest damage. So we might have to play around with our ISOs to say have Cosmic Ghost Rider have more damage than our Black Knight, so that he gets chosen as the mind control there. It's going to be very, very interesting how things work out. But that's it for the out of time, guys. Again, if you want to see this infographic, which is not built for the Scourge, it's built for just general use in the game for out of time, check out the Patreon in the description below. We're going to be looking at a couple of these while we go through this video. Let's head on over and talk about Cabal. All right, the second mandatory tag team is going to be your Cabal team. These guys are really, really fun, and they even flex over to that villain section with Crucible rules being applied. They might be used in both sections, so you might want to go harder on these guys to make sure you get through it. Because again, if there is a Skrull in the villain section, that's going to be your Cabal is going to answer that. I had the bare bones T4s thrown up here right now. So we have the Iron Patriot as the passive. I love him as a striker, but I will say his special is also like borderline mandatory with what it does. Depending on the enemy compositions, we might need to have that. Same with the leader on the ultimate. We might need that as well, but for definitely sure, his special and his passive are going to need it. I also like him as a striker. There is a concern that you might run out of vulnerables with this team, being that the Iron Patriot passive increases the damage enemies take, depending on how many vulnerables they have, up to about 30%. But what I would argue is that the striker attacks from Iron Patriot, given the disrupt and all those debuffs, far more impactful, and leader doing the heal and the cleanse also far more impactful. So we're gonna have to get those vulnerables from a different source, namely Namor. So Namor as a raider, he's gonna be hitting multiple targets on his ultimate and his special. Very, very impactful there. His ultimate, you need that T4 because it increases the amount of turn meter rewind, and his passive is gonna be mandatory as well. As far as the investment priorities goes, these guys are all so close. So although I have it listed here, and I even have the direct promotions sort of listed here, they're all so close that if you just want to bring them all up together so that they're all kind of even, and if you can only get extra stars on Namor because he's the only farmable character, then carry on more into him, because that's going to be very, very impactful. But there are other characters that we're going to have to use alongside these guys, and that's going to be our Emma Frost and our Loki. Both of these guys should just be Skirmisher. Healer with their health pool is not really going to help. Same with Fortifier. If they get hit, they're just going to die. Hopefully, we're only going to have to use these guys on one node. As far as T4s go on these characters, I really hope we don't need any for a mandatory perspective, but things like clearing all negative effects on the special, clearing all positive effects on the ultimate, plus getting the guaranteed mind controls, maybe this is something that we're going to have to lean into. So maybe we need 2 on Emma, but for now, if you haven't done it already, definitely don't. Same with Loki. So Loki's basically the only interesting T4 is the mind control to enemies, but he has a 75% chance to do it even without. So if you haven't done this T4 yet, I would strongly advise against it. So yeah, guys, make both of them skirmishers. Don't put any additional T4s into them you haven't already. Invest more into your Cabal, because that's going to be the interesting characters. All right, let's go talk about what I'm just calling the Spider Society section. It's not Skill Hero. It's just a Spider Society section. The Spider Society team, yes, Skill Hero, it kind of just defaults to these guys because they are so powerful, and we don't want to be using our Black Knight in more spots than we absolutely have to. There's also the additional of Kestrel here, but, and I don't mean to downplay how powerful Kestrel is. I would much rather have a full Spider Society team than try and shoehorn Kestrel in here, even if I only have the free-to-play pending. Because if I'm free-to-play, I assume I'm not going to be doing the higher difficulties with the Cabal and the out of time anyway, so I would still just invest into the Spider Society. That's going to be a much, much better use of your resources. But as far as T4s go, this is a very kind of cheaper team as far as raid teams go. For Path, you only really need the passive. I would say the ultimate adds tremendous damage if you were trying to get some luxury there. For Penny, everything but the basic. You're gonna need to do this for raid anyway, so get it done now. Peter B. Parker, I really like that ultimate. I really like the passive. Noir, really just the passive. This is for raids, by the way. The passive for Noir outside of raids is nothing. Same with Ghost Spider, but get that ultimate done there so she's spreading all the negative effects. And then ISO 8. I know a lot of people kind of fight on ISO 8 here. I really like Striker and Pav to get that extra speed bar, extra energy from Penny, so those two as strikers, and Ghost Spider, I like her as a striker in raids. But in the current Scourge mode, because she's not going to be applying that blind, you might as well make her a raider so you have more vulnerables to hit into. But in raids, I really prefer her as a striker. She does a lot of damage as well, so maybe you can just leave her as a striker. I think the hero skill section is probably going to be the absolute easiest just to walk over, so I don't think we need to make any dramatic changes here. Skirmisher on Peter B. Parker is my preferred because he does have that 50% chance to assist, which could lead to a bunch of triple taps, and Noir Raider. He hits so many characters so often. Getting those vulnerables out there just to increase the damage enemies are taking, I think it's going to be very, very impactful. As far as investment priority goes, if you're a spender, Pav and Penny are going to be the way to go. If not, Ghost Spider spreading all the bleeds from Noir. They become her bleeds, so keep her as a striker, and then that's who you should invest in most for this coming event. How high to directly promote people? I don't really advocate putting diamonds on these raid characters, but if you were to put them on anybody, make it Pav, because Pav is going to do tremendous damage, and he is a great plug-and-play character. Even after this current Crucible room, where it's the raid on Crucible, which I hate, he's going to be useful on the defensive side in Crucible. I'm pretty sure of it. Alright guys, but that's going to be it for those three sections. We got out of time, we got Cabal, we got the hero skill out of the way. This is also going to be it for me sharing the Patreon infographics with you. We're going to go on to more event-specific infographics and talking points now. But if you want to check out more of these infographics, check in the description below. That Patreon link, $1 a month, helps support the channel, or in the Discord, the infographics channel. They come out just about a month later. Alright, but let's go talk about, the Cosmic Bio section. These are the characters we have available for the Cosmic Bio section. There's going to be a vast difference between people who have Skrull and who don't have Skrull as far as strategy goes. But I do think there is a base 3 characters that you're definitely going to want to lean into, and one that you probably have built up. There's also some nightmare situations here that we should talk about depending on where the developers decide to go. But I think the base 3 characters that everyone should be bringing into this event are going to be your nowhere characters. That's your Nova, your Cosmo, and your Korg. This is rough, okay? Because these guys are so damn T4 heavy, and there are these very, very interesting awakened abilities for Nova that we should talk about. So let's go do that. So the Nova awakened abilities that are going to be coming to the store, the raid store, for just regular raid credits on Friday, I believe, they have a very interesting part of their kit where they're removing barrier, and they're making it so that characters cannot be revived when they're killed by that. So the War Scourge will be active here. We're going to obviously need that when we're using our out of time team. So it makes sense that they might be leaning heavy into a bunch of Dormammu's or a bunch of revive characters on these Cosmic Bio nodes. We might actually need these awakened abilities for Nova. So it makes a perma kill on the basic, it makes a perma kill on the special, and it's also going to make sure that your Cosmic enemies cannot gain defense up. I think you guys understand what that means, right? That is a huge discrepancy in the power of this character when it comes to war. This is all in war offense. So I actually believe that this Scourge, not only to endure on having the star levels, if they want to make it fun and make it creative enough that it's an actual problem to solve instead of just hitting auto, we're going to have some real obstacles to face. And those awakened abilities may play a big part in getting the win. And because his basic attack does do a perma kill with the awakened ability, we want him as a striker. Putting all those T4s on Nova so that he is getting those awakened abilities hurts, but in the longevity of the game, you're going to have a really good war team at the other end of it because it's really just Nova on that team. Which brings us to talk about Korg and Cosmo. They are going to kind of activate Nova in a few ways. They're going to give him offense up. They're going to be giving him safeguard. There's a reflexive taunt there. There's the longevity of the healing, extra healing for Nova characters from Cosmo. So there are definitely good reasons to bring these guys, but they are T4 heavy. Cosmo's basic and special, I don't have them put down here, but they are very impactful. His ultimate is also very impactful, and his passive, like, it's really tough when we're looking at these kits because of how powerful they are, but how kind of useless they are in their own game mode. So like Cosmo's basic, clearing 2 negative effects from himself and 2 positive from the enemy. The passive, clearing all positive effects from primary and secondary targets, so adjacents, that could be up to 6 people. And then we have the ultimate, right? The ultimate is applying safeguard to self and nowhere allies, also generating ability energy. This might be something that is actually necessary for this event. And then when he gets hit, applying offense down for 2 turns. So you can see how that might play a huge role in this coming trial. Now, I would not put a single T4 on these characters yet, but we can see some pretty scary realizations here, right? Like Korg on his basic, doing 2 turns of slow instead of 1. That could be very, very big depending on when the slow is applied. In War, he gets further speed reduction as well as applying offense down for 2 turns. That's to primary and adjacents. And then on his ultimate, again, a further speed meter rewind and clearing all positive effects instead of just clearing 3. Depending on the enemies, like these might be things we actually have to have. On spawn, applying defense up for 2 turns, we're not too worried about that, but maybe we're going to need him to be tankier and be able to survive a hit better. I am concerned that these T4s might be necessary for the Cosmic Battle section. It really depends how hard they want to go on us. And if they put a Black Knight on the nodes, it really comes down to that. If they put a Black Knight on the nodes or they put like a big Gamma team on the nodes, then it's going to get scary. We're going to need some of those T4s on those characters, which is very worrisome. But then we got a character like Void Knight who you've already built up for your raids. I mean, in raids, you're going to want that passive done as well. But really, the only thing that screams to me is going to be the 2 turns of ability block on his ultimate and possibly the energy steal from his special. Maybe an enemy Skrull is going to spawn in, not right away, but halfway through a node. And you need to steal energy away from him very quickly so he's not able to special you right away. Or stun him with Nova because of the trauma. So it really does depend on what they put on the nodes, how hard this Cosmic Bio section might be. But of course, if you have Skrull, you should put every single T4 on him. And we're going to want both those characters as raiders so that they can help the Nova get those ISO attacks off. We don't really want anybody taking those ISO attacks away from Nova with his insane damage. But if there is a Black Knight and that node composition has a lot of buffs on it, you don't want to kill your Skrull, right? You don't want to use your Skrull and get him killed on a Black Knight. We might need to be using Photon in a certain situation. If we bring in Photon, what it accomplishes is Nova will go before the Skrull. He'll be able to get a stun off. We'll be able to control everybody else, and you'll be able to nuke that Black Knight. But if Skrull is there and there's too many buffs on the enemy side, you might just kill yourself, which would be horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. All right, now let's go talk about what I think could have been the funnest section ever, but I'm concerned that they might have botched it because of this star requirement and gating players off. So let's go talk about that. All right, now I didn't do any sort of infographic for the villain sections. We're not going to be going through any abilities or T4s for characters because there's just too many options. You got to remember, in this trial, there's going to be war abilities turned on for your out of time team, and there's going to be crucible abilities turned on for your Cabal team. But that opens up so many doors for this tag. So you will have your Superior 6 at your beck and call. You'll have your Undying. They get those war tags. Superior 6 / Tender 6. They'll get the war and Crucible tags. God. You know, there's going to be Skrulls in play here. Apocalypse is in play here. Obviously, Cabal is in play. Masters of Evil are in play. We got Black Cat as an option. Doom, Dorm. So we have so many options here that a lot of veteran players just already have built up. Which got me thinking, this would be the section. Cosmic Bio is so limited that they kind of have to make it prescribed to those characters I talked about, right? But for this section, it's so broad. There's so many amazing options we have with War and Crucible tags turned on that this might be the nightmare section. This might be where we face Skrull, but maybe it's not just Skrull. Maybe it's Skrull with Superior 6 on spawn. Right, so the Superior 6 will stop your Cabal team from getting the vulnerables up, and then the Skrull is still going to get that speed bar, and you can't just throw Cabal at this and win. No, instead you got to start by throwing your own Sinister 6 at this, eating the Skrull ultimate and going from there, or throwing your Masters of Evil with Apocalypse at this, and somehow resetting your way till you punch that Green Goblin and you go from there. It could be we have Undying on spawn. Oh my god, they could also throw Nowhere at us here. They can throw Gamma because they don't have to follow the tags, right? So there's so many extremely powerful teams at our disposal that they have the potential to throw so many powerful enemies at us with the War and Crucible tags. The fact that both are equipped during the Scourge, to me, screams that it could have been chock full of fun. But because there's 3 prescribed nodes, they're building for that. Hero skill, let's not joke ourselves, it's prescribed. Like, you'll have some of your new Avengers, but you're missing Thing, and you're missing Coulson, and you're missing Tigra. So that's not really, you don't really have that war team. You'd have Black Knight, but you're not going to have Captain America, Peggy Carter, so it's not like that's another out of time node. It's really just hero skill. It's going to be Spider Society, which means that the node is going to have to kind of bow down to them. And Cosmic Bio, well, we saw how limited that one is. So again, the villain section is where they're going to be able to shine creativity, the node designers. But because they've limited it to the star levels, I'm also concerned that they're just going to make it easy. That we will miss out on what could have been the coolest puzzle to solve that Marvel Strike Force has thrown at us in a very long time. Hopefully I'm wrong, but here's the thing. If I am wrong, and they throw that super hard puzzle at us, it's gonna suck for new players, right? So it's this fine line to walk. And when you talk about difficulty 8 is the equivalent of what difficulty 6 used to be, there's a very interesting dynamic at play here with War turned on, with Crucible turned on, and with this very, very broad tag turned on, and then very, very limited tags turned on in all other sections. Anyway, I'd be curious what your thoughts are on that, but that's it, guys. I can't break down the T4s for your entire Superior 6 team, or your entire Undying team, your entire Masters of Evil team. All that is on the Patreon, so if you want to go check that out, you can. But all those teams are actually older, so they're also on the Discord for free in the infographics channel, so you just go check that out. Again, all in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's going to help you kind of plan out your T4s and your teams, maybe put some extra levels on those characters, particularly those Cosmic Bio characters that you may not have leveled all the way up. I know Nowhere is a pretty luxury team, actually, especially since Superior 6 came in to save the day for the Black Cat unlock. But hopefully this helps you. I hope it does, and if it did, make sure you smash that like bucket. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and don't clip that, anybody. That was a bad tongue tie. All right, guys, have yourselves a wonderful day, and we'll talk later. Bye for now. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.